Welcome to the Virtual Venture Cafe. This is our third Supply Chain Innovation Conference. Our first-time community members, welcome to the Venture Cafe. We're happy you're here with us today. As you may all know, Venture Cafe is a nonprofit organization. Everything we do is free and open to the public, so anyone can come participate in a conference, listen to a session, participate in a workshop. So please take every advantage you can of what we provide free of charge digitally, and one day we'll go back in person and provide that in person. We can achieve all of this thanks to the support of our corporate partners like Retail Business Services, a company of Ahold Delhaize USA, who are supporting us today, who are supporting this whole conference. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Dan Covert, who will be kicking off this event today. Dan Covert is Director of Supply Chain Research and Development at Retail Business Services, a company of Ahold Delhaize USA. In his role, Dan oversees the development and implementation of emerging technologies that enable supply chain strategy. And with this, I'm handing the session over to you, Dan.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Julia. All right, so let's get into it. So this is great. This is a little bit different than what we're all used to, but good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third annual Supply Chain Innovation Conference. I know this is a little bit different with us all remote, and we get to see a lot of different faces. There's way more people on this than there normally are in the room when we get started, because everyone's out getting a beer or whatever. So this is really exciting. So as Julia mentioned, my name is Dan Covert. I'm responsible for supply chain innovation at Retail Business Services. So you may not have heard of Retail Business Services before, but I'm pretty sure you're probably familiar with some of the local brands that we support. So Hannaford, Stop and Shop, Giant Food, Giant Company, and Food Line, all those together comprise the largest grocery retail group on the East Coast. And Retail Business Services is responsible for providing services to these brands such as supply chain, which is what we're here to talk about today. So it's really exciting to be here for the third year in a row discussing supply chain innovation with Venture Cafe. I think the last 6 months has been anything but normal for all of us, and it's a testament to the fact that we're on Zoom right now. And really the need for a strong supply chain is more evident than ever. So we started this partnership with Venture Cafe 3 years ago because we saw the need to bring innovators and supply chain practitioners together to brainstorm new ways to solve complex problems. I think we've never seen more complex problems than what we've had in the last 6 months. Trying to get toilet paper into stores every day has been a crazy challenge, but it's something that we've risen to and are continuing to try to do every day. So at Retail Business Services, our supply chain's changing a ton right now. So as I mentioned, still trying to get toilet paper and all the food to stores every day, but we're also in the midst of a $480 million supply chain transformation. So right now we need innovation and creative ideas more than ever. So each year that we've worked with Venture Cafe, we want to make the event better and include more areas of supply chain, more people, and new partners. So last year we started the Supply Chain Seed Program, which as a big retailer, we saw the need to connect more with the startup communities, but we didn't really know where to begin. So with partnership with Venture Cafe, we started this program last year with 5 different startups paired with 5 different buddies for a 10-week collaborative program. So the intention was to give early stage startups full access to contacts at Retail Business Services, allow us to collaboratively work with these companies to refine products and figure out ways to make new ideas come to life in our business. So while the seed program has been fully remote this year, we're still committed to success. We've had over 17 one-on-one mentoring sessions with people internal to our company and the startups, as well as trainings on topics such as go-to-market strategy, marketing and branding, customer growth, fundraising, pitching, storytelling, all sorts of things. So at 4:30 today, if everyone sticks around, we're gonna have a great Shark Tank. You get to hear from the 5 finalists of the seed program. You get to hear their pitches. It should be very exciting. So I hope everyone stays with us for the whole session. We've got a great afternoon plan. Up first, we're gonna hear a keynote on omnichannel supply chain. We're gonna have a great panel on COVID-19 and the future of supply chain, followed by a bunch of different industry insights talks, and then concluding, like I said, with the final pitches from this year's seed cohort at 4:30. So I hope you'll stay with us for the whole time. And with that, I'd like to introduce Chris Lewis. Chris is the Executive Vice President of Supply Chain at Retail Business Services. I've had the pleasure of working with Chris for many years, and I don't think anyone knows the grocery supply chain better than Chris. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Dan. Maybe where I would start is just a little bit about our business and the supply chain. As Dan said, we operate 5 retail brands on the East Coast. We have more than 2,000 stores that we support across really from Maine to Georgia. And we continue to grow in the $43 billion in sales. We'll easily eclipse that this year in the COVID world, as Dan mentioned. But we run the largest private fleet on the East Coast with more than 1,000 trucks. We'll probably hit closer to 140 or 150 million miles this year, and we handle more than a billion cases across the supply chain. As Dan mentioned, we announced a $480 million investment in supply chain. That really consists of bringing back our supply chain and many of the components. Included in that is 7 distribution centers. All of the components of logistics, transportation, buying functions over the next 3 years. And part of this is really to help deliver on our ambitions around being an omni-channel grocer. And so if you step back and you look at the infrastructure that we'll have all of those distribution centers. We have many e-commerce centers across the East Coast as well. So there's just around 30 e-commerce facilities. So there's 2 large fulfillment centers, many ware rooms, and many dark stores in support of our ambition there. And so that we weren't going to be bored, along the way, we opened a central production kitchen this last year. In another month, we're opening our 2nd meat plant that will support our retail brands. And we also announced the purchase of more than 60 stores and another distribution center on top of what Dan mentioned to support our business in the South. And that'll be another 1 million square foot distribution center. I think the remarkable part of doing that over the last year and implementing all those pieces is we did that in the middle of having the COVID pandemic hit us and having a generational business crisis in the supply chain and having record sales, demand, and all of the issues that come with the people side of operating COVID. And so for all of the folks from RBS, our brands, the IT department, accounting, we have many partners across the business that have helped us execute to support our customers, but also all of the changes outlined on the transformation. When you think about what we're trying to transform to support our omni-channel ambition, I think about how we integrate that physical network. And so whether that's the DCs, the e-commerce centers, so there's a physical nature to supply chain, and it has to be unified across the whole supply chain. We need to scale differently how we procure and buy product. Our past, we've had several companies doing some of their own activities. And so when you think about scaling procurement, that could be in buying product or product acquisition, but it could also be buying tractors, trailers, pallets, pallet wrap. And so aggregating that to buy and partner with our suppliers in a different way. Certainly the underpinning of this, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, it's all of the technology and the data infrastructure to support that omni-channel supply chain. Some of the enablers, it's really making sure that as we think about this ecosystem, it's one unified supply chain that supports our customers, whether they're shopping with us online or in stores. It's investing in our automation capabilities, which is both virtual and physical. And that could be in a distribution center, our e-commerce facility, or in our retail stores themselves. The modernization of our technology, there's certainly lots of applications that we're updating, but the infrastructure that is the backbone of our supply chain, as Dan mentioned, around having some of the issues around COVID early in March, right through to today. The systems need to keep that whole supply chain on the East Coast operating. And maybe the most important piece, and certainly to me, it's one of our top priorities, is acquiring the right talent to lead, develop, and operate the supply chain of the future. And so maybe a little bit about the physical nature of the network. Today, we're operating 17 facilities. I won't list all those out for you. And in the future, we'll have 26 or 27 or 28, as we've in the middle of this last year also insourced frozen for Hannaford, and I mentioned the facility in South Carolina. So this journey will be integrating that physical network over the next 2.5 or 3 years. One of the important pieces of this from an omnichannel standpoint is where these facilities are positioned will put us within 3 to 4 hours of 95% of our stores. And so if you think about from a speed to customer, and whether that's a store or a home, our physical network is very well positioned to serve our customers today and in the future. One of the new programs that we are building and we are working with suppliers this year, it's a new collaboration platform, and we're calling it the Advantage Program. And really what we're trying to build here is a new way to partner with our suppliers. And I think a more deeper relationship to have with our suppliers. And for the suppliers, the advantage for them is we'll give them key coaches in supply chain that will help them work on specific problems. That could be planning issues, it could be opportunities in one of our distribution centers, all the way through execution at store. And so if you think about the value of a supplier being able to move product more accurately, have better insights to where product is in our supply chain, it will drive performance for the supplier base. My hope is that when we launch this in January of 21, that most of our suppliers will sign on to the program and help us change some of the outcomes for our downstream customers. That's going to be key to driving the right fresh product in stock in the points that our customers are shopping with us. And those are going to be, I think, mutually beneficial for both groups. The way that we'll make this program work, we've already started to and will hire more than 25 resources to help staff this team that will support the Advantage Program. And so the interface to the suppliers, we'll have, I think, top talent in partnership with the suppliers. There's a lot of technology and a lot of data behind this, but just the analytics and the insights for suppliers and for our own supply chain teams, I believe will drive, new outcomes for both the suppliers and for us. From an automation standpoint, I mentioned that it's a key pillar of our future. In the $480 million investment we discussed, we bought a facility in York, Pennsylvania. That facility has significant automation in it. The other two announcements inside of the broader self-distribution announcement is we're partnering with Americold to build 2 fully automated frozen food facilities. And in our industry, we, hiring people to work a lot of times at night and in deep freeze is really difficult. And once enabled, these 2 facilities have many benefits for us. One, in these automated facilities, they build more dense pallets. And so that will drive cube per truck up or cost down. The accuracy to stores will be significantly better than when I was a frozen food selector, as an example. And ideally, as we're building these facilities, the third party that does it for us today, they have many customers. So when they build their facilities, they build it in the centroid that supports multiple customers. These freezers will be in the, I'll call it the best location for the stores they'll serve, and will reduce 2.5 million miles of transportation just by being in a better spot to serve the brands. And so from a cost standpoint, that less travel equates to more than $3 million of savings right from year one. From a virtual automation standpoint, or even from the technology platform standpoint, we've announced several things. We're very far along with implementing a transportation system. And this will be in supply chain, our first common system deployed across the whole supply chain. And there's several components to this. We implemented a Manhattan system that will optimize all inbound and outbound deliveries. And if you think about the scale in which we're operating the supply chain, we receive more than 1,000 POs a day, and we ship to 2,000 stores a day. And so that tool helping us optimize routes will be a big advantage for us. Another underpinning of that technology will help us even understand where our assets are. And so any given point, the onboard computers, the GPS sensors built into the trailers will allow us to know where those are at any time. It also helps us understand how efficient our drivers operate our equipment. So from a miles per gallon standpoint, we can coach drivers on different techniques to help lower costs. And then from a forecasting and replenishment standpoint, we're well underway in implementing the Relics tool. That Relics tool will be pivotal in us delivering in this omni-channel space. If you think about having all of those stores, distribution centers, manufacturing plants, and having one logical view to where inventory is anywhere on the East Coast, our ability to lower our inventory position, but dramatically improve our in-stock position for our customers, it's pretty critical. One of the things that I'm most excited about on the Relic side is it has strong automation capabilities. And so from a machine learning standpoint and other elements within the algorithms built into the tool, we can automate many of the manual tasks done today. And we can reinvest that time that we're using today in other activities that help drive better outcomes, whether that's improving the way that product flows, how we buy to drive DC effectiveness. So if we can help the DCs balance, both DCs and retail balance how product is flowed, we can help lower costs and move more product through the system. From a talent standpoint, I mentioned that this is critical to our journey. We are very cognizant that when we think about running a 45 or 50 billion omni-channel supply chain, we need to invest in a lot of our own skills. And that means hiring and acquiring, developing diverse talent that has unique skills that maybe we don't have today, or that we have today but we need to grow. And a big focus for us is, and the HR teams helping us build people strategies, it is really about building the right culture with the right talent to deliver on all of our aspirations. And one of the reasons it's the most important, and it's very obvious to me, is in the COVID world, as things were going crazy in March and sales were going crazy, and we had impacts in our own DCs, we still had more than 90% attendance rates at our facilities. And that was because we worked with our folks to help them feel safe, but also be safe in operating in our facilities. And that was all about our people. And so it's just a credit to the folks that we have, and also in the capabilities that we're trying to hire, and whether that's in support of the Relics investment, the transportation systems, or even in data analytics. And we can build some of these capabilities. And we have folks that are very talented, but actually going out into the market to hire folks that have done some of these things at multiple other companies can help come here and teach us how to build those skills as well. And so when I think about how we can be there for our customers, whenever, wherever, or however they want to shop with us, ultimately the supply chain has to be more responsive. In the COVID world, we've never had a chance to step up and respond to many of the problems we have, whether it's at the stores, the DCs, our suppliers. And I'll say that the tools we have and the people that work for us today, I couldn't be prouder for what they've done. And we need to give them more tools to help drive different outcomes for us in the future. From an efficiency standpoint, what's really critical for us, and it has been, I've been in this business for 32 years. supply chain has to deliver on cost, it has to deliver on service, and it has to deliver on capabilities. And so at the core of everything we do, we're always conscious of cost and driving efficiency through the supply chain. And so whether it's the automation in the tools, it's the physical automation of moving cases, but how we optimize in support of our brands has never been more important. From a precision standpoint, as large as our supply chain is, we have to treat it in small parts to execute the plan every day. All of our brands have unique strategies. All of our brands have unique commercial plans. And so our supply chain has to be responsive to all of those things. And we treat things in center store, driving cost and in stock differently than we do on the fresh side of the house, and trying to build capabilities to make sure that the strawberries, for when people bring them home, experience them in the way that they would expect it, whether that's the taste, smell, or everything about a strawberry that you would expect to experience in that purchase. And maybe just a quick thing on the fresh focused. The strawberry example is a good one, but even the capabilities of building these central kitchens that actually help stores lower their costs by centralizing activities, we can actually improve the quality, improve the speed to shelf. And it's a real partnership with the brands as they dictate what recipes or items they'd like to see for their customers. So in talking to their customers, they help give us an idea of those recipes, and then we've got to build plans on how we would manufacture and move the product where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. And with that, I think we have time for questions.
Thank you very much, Chris. I can see we have one question from Brandon. If we currently work at one of the local brands, would it be possible to grow into a position with retail business services?
Yeah, absolutely. We have folks that have worked in the brands and come work inside of RBS. And we have folks that are in RBS that work at brands. And so from a career planning standpoint, there are opportunities to grow in the organization in that way.
Great news for everyone in the audience. Any more questions? Oh, I can see a question from Aaron. Can you give us a few quick words about what the early days of COVID were like? How did the team manage to juggle the day-to-day and the transformation work you've discussed?
Sure. So if you go back to March, we were operating the first 15 days of the month like we would any other time. We just about overnight had sales increase 100% across all of our stores. So if you think about 2,000 stores spiking 100%, that's a pretty incredible amount of demand. What we did is we met every day, probably 2 weeks before things really went crazy. We made early decisions to buy out more than a month's worth of extra product across the network. And so that was in motion. On the distribution side, John and his team made sure that we secured with the logistics group more equipment, more drivers. And so across the board, there was plans for product, there was plans for people. And so that was the first, call it 2 weeks. And then every day, senior leaders would come together with the brands to talk through next steps and also what do we anticipate will happen. And so as everybody knows, from a COVID standpoint, it was unclear how long it would last or how big the impact would be. But I will say the level of collaboration internally and then with our suppliers was pretty incredible. And the flexibility of the leaders that we have to get creative about where they're purchasing product. And so Dan mentioned toilet paper. If you went to our stores in March, April, May, or even today, you would have seen some of the normal brands that you're used to, but we were buying toilet paper from all over the world in order to bring product to the shelf. And that includes hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies, we were buying lots of product and equipment from folks that supply college bookstores. So we bought 500 trailers of paper from a supplier that, as they didn't have business because colleges were closed, they had plenty of product. The other side where we found product and actually people was the food service industry. And so our folks worked with those organizations. We actually brought a lot of their workers into our distribution center so they had work, could continue making money. But we also bought a lot of product from them as restaurants all closed, as everybody knows. So the group had to be very nimble, and it was a day-to-day situation, and whether that was product, people, or operations, we had to make a lot of adjustments, and still do.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions coming in. Actually, let me just choose one. How are the integration challenges handled while enabling omnichannel experience to the customers with multiple brands and entities?
Sure. So one thing, just to give credit to the IT team in RBS, we have a dedicated team that's working on all of the integration and building out all of those capabilities we talked about. And so whether that's the IT team, a dedicated business team that are made up from folks all over RBS. So they're working on all of the changes and the integration. And what we try to do is keep a lot of the folks running the day-to-day out of that change. And so the trick is to try to keep both teams abreast of what's going on. But in the middle of COVID, other than the first 2 weeks of the pandemic hitting us, we haven't missed any of our milestones. And the folks at times on the project will come over and help, but they're 99% dedicated to that transformation. So it's been very successful. And if anything, we keep throwing more work at them as we keep coming up with new opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. There are a lot of questions about automation. Could you please tell us more about your automation strategy and whether you're planning to employ any AI or blockchain technologies or maybe roaming robots? What is your strategy?
Sure. We're doing a lot of research, and Aisha is going to give one example, I think, as part of this program. But we're doing research both from like a big DC, ASRS, like the Two Frozen facility. So it's a thematic solution that we're engineering with them, and that'll take, we'll have lights in the building, but that's more for tours than it is for having to get the work done. It'll have significant automation to complete all of the daily work. Robotics is something that we're currently doing a lot of research on. Our York, Pennsylvania facility has some robotics in it. And I think the challenge is understanding the right application for each of the technologies. And so whether it's a brownfield site where we currently have a building and can put micro fulfillment to take slow movers and optimize that labor, or all the way through autonomous vehicles to do putaways. And so we're shaping our strategy today. And one of the investments from a people standpoint we'll be making is in the support of building automation. And so pretty exciting. And I know Nancy McDonough is on the program today, and she's done work looking on the retail side. And so there's a lot of partnership. She's in RBS as well. So there's a lot for us to figure out there. But the other cool thing about it is the technology is evolving fast and the costs are coming down. If you were in this space 20 years ago, there were capabilities, but they were expensive.
I think I'm muted. Apologies for that. So we'll take a couple more questions. A question coming from Nancy. You mentioned reskilling the workforce as you roll out tools like Relics to perform manual tasks. Is there a formal training program you're developing for it, or will the employees learn on the job?
Yep. So Andre Shaw leads our demand management group. And so when we talk about Relics, there's two things going on. There is definitely lots of on the job training. And so they've been in the tool for several weeks, the buyers, and there'll be more for them to learn as we progress and we roll that tool out. I'd say the other thing that we've done, and it's an investment we've done in the demand team, is we brought MIT in to do some best in class training. And that's what we'll continue to do. So there'll be some on the job as we learn the basics of Relics. And then I think there'll be some advanced opportunities for folks to bring in experts, whether from Relics or from some of our partners like MIT.
Thank you. Another question. What would you advise brands to focus on today to prepare for changes in inventory management and deliver on what our customers want?
Yep, it's a great question. Probably the most important thing our retail partners can do is make sure that the inventory is accurate at the shelves. As you know, the best technology, the best innovation IA in the tool can't overcome if we don't actually have the inventory at the shelf that we think we do. And so one thing that we're doing a little different with this program is we're trying to solve from the shelf back. In the past, we've done many forecasting, different projects to try to improve forecasting, but it was typically to the back room and trying to work with our retail brands to update and progress practices at the shelf in combination with the technology is what will really drive new outcomes for us.
Let us probably take one more question from the audience before we move into the panel discussion. So that one is about pandemic. What was the most surprising occurrence, both in a good and bad way, you experienced during pandemic?
So maybe the bigger surprise on the product side is how quickly we talked about toilet paper. Even though we bought a month's extra product, we still today struggle with demand, and that demand goes all the way to the suppliers. So even though the suppliers are producing 120% more than they did prior to the start of pandemic, we can't keep enough product on the shelf. So that would be the one maybe surprising part. I think the thing I've been the most impressed with is we have great leaders out in the distribution transportation space, and to have our folks feel safe and coming to work in the numbers that they are, it's pretty impressive. And it's impressive when we're averaging 92% attendance, and many of my peers and other folks that support us, their attendance rate's more like 50 or 60%.
Thank you very much for all of the great questions. We still have a few in the chat, and Chris, if you would like, please feel free to type an answer in chat if you get a chance.
Sure.
Thank you for a great kickoff, Dan and Chris, and thank you for helping us organize it. Look forward to the next session. See you there.